Guys, I just want to create a short video on using Google Scholar to find peer-reviewed manuscripts. What peer-reviewed means is that you're not just publishing something and putting it out there without having it be reviewed by peers that are either equal or more senior than you in your field. So whenever, say like I go to publish a manuscript, I submit them to academic journals like, say, Vaccine or Human Vaccines and Immunotherapeutics or American Journal of Public Health or Cancer Causes and Control, right? Like there are journals that I tend to target because they're more relevant for the kind of work I do and because the kind of research that I do is more related to cancer prevention and control and dealing with the HPV vaccine. Those are some of the targets, some of the journals I tend to target. So I look, anyway, when you go on Google Scholar, you're finding peer-reviewed manuscripts more often, right? There are also patents that are published there as well, but you can find a whole litany of peer-reviewed manuscripts. So I want to help point you in the direction of how to find studies to use for your final project. So first of all, go to scholar.google.com. Now, by the way, I'm going to create one more video that actually shows me doing this and gives you the example of like what I do for my research, right? So the technique I'm going to tell you to use are aspects of, or like kind of parts of Boolean search technique. There are more parts of Boolean search techniques than what I'm going to present, but I'm just going to show you what I usually use when I'm trying to narrow the amount of literature I get back to review for literature reviews, for using scholarly evidence in my own work. So the first thing I do is I go to google.scholar.com and I use a Boolean search technique to look for, I'll give you the example of my work in HPV vaccination. So my first thing is that I want to treat the word HPV vaccine like one term, right? If I were to search and I would just type in HPV vaccine, just as is, I'd get a whole host of articles returned back to me, right, for my search. The first thing that would come back to me most likely would be about the HPV vaccine specifically. There'd be pages and pages of output. Additionally, Google Scholar would say, now I'm going to look for everything about HPV, about human papillomavirus. Awesome. I'm going to give her more findings. And then also, I'm going to give her everything published about vaccines, right? So I'm going to have numerous pages of material coming back to me. So let's say that I wanted to, again, narrow my search. I would say, well, I want this just treated like one search term. So I'm going to put this string of words, a string of phrases in quotation marks to say, hey Google, or hey Google Scholar, treat this like one term. So say that you were searching on food access, right, for your final project. I'd say put food access in quotation marks. Let's say for my health communication class that you're looking for stress reduction. I'd say put stress reduction in quotation marks. And again, that's telling the search engine, which in this case is Google Scholar, use this as one term. I'd also use something that helps limit the amount of findings I get by putting the word and, right? So let's say that I want to look at, we'll use the example of stress reduction again. Stress reduction and interventions, right? So that's telling Google Scholar, don't just look for the term stress reduction, but look to see what intervention or what people have published about interventions that are already out there. I might also limit by like geographic region, like Southern United States or Southwestern United States, or just US or and United States, right? Or maybe I'd want to limit by college students, right? So what I would do there is stress reduction in quotation marks and intervention and college student or and university, whichever one you prefer, and US or and United States in quotation marks. And again, those quotation marks say search for this as one term, and the and says make sure that somewhere in the heading or in the body of the text that you're pulling up, it has all of these terms, right? Those are the two techniques I use most often with Boolean search technique, and trust me when I tell you, I use it for shopping, I use it for buying food, I use the same search technique in search engines for everything. I've just become used to using that to more quickly get to exactly what I'm looking for. In Google Scholar, I'll also go to the left-hand side of the screen, and where it says search from year such and such to such and such, in the left, when you can put the first year in one of those boxes, I try to look for things that have been published within the past 5 years. So it's 2020, right? So I'd put in 2015. Maybe I'd put in 2014 to include from 2014 to 2019 since we're so early on in 2020, right? And in that way, I'd really try to limit what's been done most recently or what's been published most recently and what is more specific to whatever it is I'm trying to search for. So like, let's say that I'm trying to conduct an intervention about getting college students to increase HPV vaccination on college campuses. My search strategy would be HPV vaccine in quotation marks and intervention, just to see what else has been done out there, right? And then I'd put like university and college students in quotation marks. And then I would go over to the left side of the screen, and when it says search by years, I'd put 2015, and then I'd leave the other box open, right? So it'll search until what's been most recently published. And in that way, I'm really, again, just trying to limit the sheer volume of articles that are shared with me from this scholarly search engine. So I hope this helps. My next video is going to be actually demonstrating what this looks like on Google Scholar.